Hello, everyone. We are back for another episode of the Arbury Road podcast with myself, Dermot. This week, we're going to focus in on language, why it's important in the EU, why multiple languages are important, and the unique opportunities we have in Europe regarding bilingualism, multilingualism, etc. Joining me, we have the director of the German School of Milan, who has previously worked as a principal and vice principal in several schools in Germany, Manfred Runge. Manfred, thanks a million for joining me. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm fine. Thanks to you. So nice to meet you. Nice being
Likewise.
here. Yeah, thank you very much indeed.
Fantastic. So let's get going and let's start. I thought maybe we could begin by you telling us a little bit about the German School of Milan, what it is, how it works, and everything like that.
Yeah, okay. Voluntarily. Well, I'm here. I've been here for almost 2 years this summer. And as you've said, I'm from Germany. I was principal in Germany before, and now I'm here. And it is a great experience. And not only to add some marketing to my school, it's a great school in a great city. So I'm very proud being here, to be honest. And the school's called Scuola Germanica, and it focuses in its name, uh, well, the link to Germany and what it stands for, and that's very important. It's quite a large school. We've got a kindergarten and a primary school and a secondary school, bringing students to, well, the international Abitur A level, yeah, to, put it bluntly, about 900 students, including the little kids in the kindergarten.
Perfect. So could you tell me a bit more about the model of this school? Because, for example, I was lucky enough to work as a language assistant in a couple of bilingual high schools in Madrid, here in Spain. But when they say bilingual, what a lot of them mean is that they teach one or two subjects occasionally through English. Is the German School of Milan a more thorough, let's say, is the entire curriculum taught through German? Is it a mix with Italian? How does it work in that sense?
Of course, we've got both languages here, but I wouldn't call it a bilingual school. The focus is on the German language, of course, because it's a German school. And as I said, bringing students to A level, which means to the international Abitur of Germany. So we got to focus on the German language, but also students, well, learn Italian, or the majority of our students do come from Italy and have Italian language as a mother tongue. So this is what makes it out. And the thing is that our general principle, or well, mission statement, or whatever you might call it, focuses on encounter and language together. So what we're about to do is bringing different cultures together. In this case, well, we're talking about Italy and Germany. And we think this is most important because it's a focus on culture, it's a focus on encounter of different cultures, well, in an international surrounding. This is our focus.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes perfect sense. Setting students up for life in Europe, where you can encounter many cultures on a daily basis. Um, so I understand that this is a school that's funded by the German government. Is that correct?
Well, no, it's not funded by the German government,
Mm-hmm.
but we're an Italian school, and we are supported, of course, by the German government. Got to bring out students. A certain amount of students yearly, and therefore we get support. But we also stand for German culture,
Mm-hmm.
stand for encounter, we stand for the German language and the bringing together of Italian and German language and Italian and German culture. And thus we're supported by Germany, and we're among approximately 140 schools 140 German foreign schools. This is a proper translation.
Brilliant. That's a really impressive number of foreign schools. Absolutely. So you've mentioned there the importance of bringing cultures together. Now, bearing that in mind, how do you view the role of English in modern day Europe? So as you've said, your ideas, you want to bring cultures together, bring language together. This is a very important part of the European Union, and yet we've seen English take over and become the dominant language, if you will. How do you view this? Do you see it as a positive thing, as a negative thing?
Well, more or less, to be honest, I take it as a fact. Um, well, because I'm sorry for that. As far as I'm concerned, English has always been language number one in the world. And it's always been the number one language in Europe when it comes to international conversation or language. I mean, as far as I know, German is the most widely spoken language in Europe as a mother tongue. But English has always been important. And before the days of the European Union, international conversation and talks, English was the most important language as all. So this is no different at all today. But being a union of, well, now, sorry, I'm very sorry for that, not 28, but 27 nations.
Don't worry, Manfred. I'm from Ireland. I have no sympathy for the Brexiteers.
I know, but I'm sorry for all of us that Britain's not with us anymore. So we're 27, and of course we are very, very individual nations, proud nations, and so I think we got 10 or 11 official languages in the Union, and besides English, of course, there are other dominant languages like French or Spanish, and also Italian. But I think the number one language is still English. And so I regard it as very important because every one of us has learned it at school, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it's fair to say that people could be, I don't think discriminated against if they don't speak English is the right term, but do you think people could be left behind, given that now, as you say, it's pretty much accepted that English is the, using quotation marks, the common language? If someone doesn't have access to English at a public school level, let's say, are these members of Europe likely to be left behind and be excluded as we move forward?
I don't know. Well, I think English is essential, fundamental to learn English, but we've got to include minorities as well, of course. The most important thing is when you meet other people from the union, in the union, talking to each other, you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to understand each other. And if it's not English, well, it could be any other language at all. So it is important that everyone meeting anyone in Europe can talk to each other. And if it's not English, if it's French, I don't care, it's good. If it's not English, if it's Spanish, I don't care, it's good. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes it's difficult to, or it's important to make clear that it's not important that it's perfect. We sometimes think, well, we must be perfect talking to each other. We must be perfect in a foreign language. This is not so important, not so crucial as far as I'm concerned. So it's crucial that we've got courage and openness to a foreign language, and well, then we'll be able to talk to each other. So I don't only focus on English. I, for myself, I'm not good in French. And today I feel very, very sorry. When I was at school, I did Latin. And we didn't have a chance to choose between French and Spanish, only French and Latin. And today I regret not having focused on French language because it's if one thing is difficult, it's difficult to talk in English when talking to French people.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't really care. The main thing is we understand each other.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, and you've hit the nail on the head. I think it's not about perfection, it's about communication. But I think there are some merits to learning Latin too. I mean, if you have a grounding in Latin, you can branch out into
Yeah.
several languages,
Uh,
I guess.
I love to be able to read some inscriptions,
Hmm.
which I still can't.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to the point in history now, I suppose, that Latin is so of the past that it's almost like there's almost something exciting and appealing about those outdated languages in a way. Okay, so let's talk more about the cultural aspect of things, because you stress the importance in your school of bringing cultures together. Just how important is it culturally to branch out and learn one or two or three languages other than your mother tongue, in your opinion?
Well, yeah, the more the better, of course. Well, you don't need to learn every language, of course. And for example, as far as I'm again concerned, it's not so easy for me learning Italian because we are here and we talk German all day long.
Mhm.
So it's difficult being very tired in the evening studying Italian, but. All in all, it's important to learn other languages, foreign languages, because you get or you are able to get to know the culture of a country better, the history of a country better, and this is important in a world where with countries who have strong links like Italy and Germany. Yeah, we got a very very intense past bringing us together. So it is important to know parts of the language as well, and it's or within a world um, in turmoil we're living in right now, where countries move apart from each other again. Yeah, we got more nationalistic tendencies, and it's a contradiction in a world where we think globally. Yeah, economically, globalization. Politically, well, the other way around. You know, more a tendency to nationalism, and also for this, it's important to come closer again to each other. And well, what could be better than learning a language, learning something about the culture, about habits, and it helps you understanding each other.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's
That's my point of view.
Yeah, as I say, I agree. I think there's something quite personal and quite appreciative when a new friend or a new colleague or something puts in the effort to learn something in your language, learn something about your culture. I definitely agree. It's extremely important. And so I'd like to touch on something you mentioned there regarding how we're falling back. Yeah, how we're a bit of a contradiction because we're falling back into nationalism politically, yet economically we're thinking globally. And it's a bit of a contradiction relating to languages within the EU because, as we've said, English is supreme. English is, although now there are only 1% of native speakers in the EU speaking English, it's the number one language. You've got Spanish, French, German, and Italian as well, are major languages. And citizens, particularly young language learners, are encouraged to take up these languages, but it often comes at the sacrifice of their own languages, their own national language, their mother tongue. How can we address this issue? Because I asked this question being from Ireland, where we have the least frequently spoken language in the EU. And yet everyone does Irish in school for 14 years. A lot of people study through Irish, but it's just not used on a daily basis. How can we address, I'm sure this is the same for many of the Eastern European countries. For example, we have 24 official languages. 9 of them represent 1% or less of the EU's population. A further 10 of them are only spoken by 10% or less, and then you have the big 5. So how can we encourage particularly younger learners who will be able to retain the language and become fluent easier? How can you encourage them to continue with their minor languages while also focusing on the major ones that are important to cooperation in Europe?
Well, of course, you gotta study your own language as well. Yeah, so you have to appreciate your own language. Your own origins are very important, to you when being educated at school. So, from my point of view, this is also something schools must take as a treasure. Yeah. For example, well, we are one of the big countries here in Italy, yeah, and not like Ireland.
Yeah.
And it is important to study Italian culture also in the German school. And so this is important for any country. Yes, as a member of the European Union, um, but at the same time, you got to enable students to get abroad, to take part in exchange programs, for example, which is very difficult right now. It's almost impossible right now, to be honest. Yeah. So when we've got the chance again, I regard it as being well a most crucial point. Um, Take your talents to the world, and learn as much as you can, but don't neglect the country you come from.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So, speaking now as the director of the school, what would you like to see applied, things that you do well, what would you like to see applied to other international schools in other EU member states? And if you could change any things about the way things are done, either at the European level or particularly in Italy or with these German schools, what would they be?
Well, I'm not an expert when it comes talking about other international schools or language schools because well, I don't know the curriculum or the program or the skills they focus on. So I refrain from judging. Yeah? So it wouldn't be honest to do that. But what I stressed before, or when we started talking, is that I think it is important not only focus on the mere language, or vocabulary training, or building sentences or linguistic affairs, but combine it with history, culture, and all other affairs. Also, with affairs dealing with politics, economics, and which is most important, our future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned history because I mean, if we think about the historical context of English rising to the most frequently spoken language in the West, at least, this all comes from colonization, leading to eventually onto globalization. So it is. I definitely agree that the historical context is extremely important. Last question then, because I think we've covered everything I wanted to ask you. At the European level specifically, is there anything you'd like to see introduced at the political level by the European Union, any sort of standardization or any sort of initiative to really kickstart an interest in maybe learning some of the other languages or establishing more similar programs like the one you have in Italy? Because I can't speak for, again, I'm not 100%. I can say with 99.9% certainty, there are not many government backed Irish schools around Europe. You know what I mean? This seems to be a phenomenon only amongst the biggest nations and those who speak main languages in Europe. So is there anything we can change?
Well, I don't know. I mean, a single school can't offer a variety of languages normally. So we at our school offer Latin, we offer French, Italian, and German language. So well, we could for sure talk about introducing Spanish, for example, but to be open to other languages, like Irish, for example, means to be open to be open for other countries. Yeah, when you go to other countries, when you visit other countries, or when you take part in exchange programs, you get a chance to get to know the people living there, to get to know the system, and to get to know the culture. And I regard it as very, very important when we've got the chance again, as I've mentioned before, take all you have out to the world, be open, go to other countries, learn about different cultures, and you will also get a glimpse of the individual language. Sometimes very difficult, of course. For example, I've been to Poland several times, and I appreciate it a lot. But it's hardly impossible for me to learn Polish because it's had to be one of the most difficult languages in the world. Huh?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I've heard. I have a cousin who became fluent in Polish from working on a construction site with a lot of Polish men in Ireland, and he said it is incredible. He tried to explain some of the grammar structures to me once. It's just incredible, the number of tenses and everything. Okay, Manfred, I think we're going to leave it there. Thanks a million for answering those questions. It was great to hear from someone with, real life hands-on experience in this area. I think you've given a really good overview to how things work and what some of the key changes we need to make, and some of the initiatives we need to back, particularly in terms of cultural integration and crossover. So thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I might like, if I may, end with a sentence because I'm right now reading a book with my students from Harari, A Brief History of Mankind. Mm-hmm. And I like talking to you about languages because, well, he stresses what makes a difference. Yeah? He sees mankind as an animal of no significance, but the difference is the language. Mm-hmm. And that makes it clear. So thank you very much indeed for giving me the opportunity to talk to you.
That was absolutely our pleasure. I hope we'll speak again soon.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Take care.